Getting an accurate soil core every single time means going to the right depth and extracting that depth completely. And that matters because of nutrient stratification. But just because you go to the right depth doesn't mean you extract it fully. And that's because of three primary problems: getting soil into the probe, getting the soil up and out of the ground, and getting the soil out of the probe and into the bucket. Let's talk about into the probe first. Whenever soil sees the face of a probe, it has a decision to make. Do I go into the probe or do I go around the probe? And it makes that decision based on whatever path is easiest. And two things that we do at ROGO to make sure that it's always easiest to travel into the probe is we have a very smooth inlet, and we have lots of interior relief inside of here so that as soil moves up into the probe, it has lots of breathing room to expand and not grab the sides and create back pressure that doesn't allow soil into the probe. Then we have the issue of residue. If a hand probe is being used, you could simply move the crop residue out of the way with your foot. But with a machine-mounted system, if you simply push a probe into the ground, into crop residue, it's going to act like a wrapper and prevent soil from getting into the probe. So what we do at ROGO, we use our bucket in the blue to pinch that residue very tightly against the ground and hold it very taut, so that when we lower the probe, it pierces the residue, like that. Now we have soil into the probe, uninterrupted. Next, once we're at the bottom of the hole, we need to get that soil up and out. The first part of that is making sure we sever the soil column from itself. We do that by rotating. Then, because of the interior relief and the inlet, we have a nice seat for that soil to sit on as the probe goes up. Once we get the soil up and out of the ground, we need to make sure that we do two things: scrape the soil into the bucket and not out the bottom of the probe and bottom of the bucket. And we also need to make sure that soil stays in the bucket. Let's talk about scraping it into the bucket. So as there's soil in the probe, we've designed our scraper specifically to make sure that no soil gets past the scraper, which would inhibit the next soil core being taken, and also that all the soil gets ejected into the bucket rather than simply getting pushed down the probe. That's done with a specifically designed scraper. The second part is we got to keep it in the bucket. And we do that with a trapdoor. And the trapdoor solves two problems. One, as soil is collected and builds up in the bucket, it prevents that soil from falling back into the hole once the probe is pulled up. But secondly, it also prevents the soil in the tip of the probe that gets poked out of the tip by the scraper. It's the very last step of clean out. It prevents that from falling down the hole as well, because it springs back very quickly and seals off the bucket hole. So that's how we get soil into the bucket and keep it in the bucket. So all in all, we get soil into the probe, we get it up and out of the ground, we get it into the bucket, and we keep it in the bucket. And that is at ROGO how we take a complete soil core every single time.